My name is Alan Howell, and I'm the chairman of the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame. I would like to thank all of you for being here tonight to honor 6 outstanding individuals who have made lasting contributions to the aviation community in our state and across the country. The Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame is one of the most recognized and renowned organizations of its kind in the United States, thanks to the dedicated efforts of our Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Bob Minter, the current and past board members, and our many financial supporters and volunteers over the years. Your attendance tonight and sponsorships for tonight's gala support the ongoing efforts of this outstanding organization. Over the past 20 years, we have inducted 76 members into the Hall of Fame. The accomplishments and contributions of these men and women who are members of the Hall of Fame are truly amazing. They inspire us to follow in their footsteps, and they have paved the way for us and the future generations of aviators through their vision, hard work, sacrifice, and innovation. The stories of their accomplishments and distinguished careers are preserved and continue to be told through the work of the Hall of Fame. Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame has a twofold mission of preserving the legacy of its members and Tennessee's aviation history, while promoting education to the next generation of aviators, our future Hall of Famers. Through the generous support of Robert A. and Susan C. Wilson Foundation and other donors, we were able to print and distribute over 23,000 copies of the first edition coloring book that tells the stories of our members. These coloring books have gone into classrooms, churches, scout troops, airports, aviation groups across the state, and now they are being distributed at the Tennessee State Museum. As we seek to expand this outreach, we will need your help in funding reprints of the first edition and developing a second edition. This year, the Hall of Fame Board welcomed 4 new members: Mark Cheney, Rachel Halverson, Scott Franks, and Jonathan Wicks. We are excited about their leadership, their fresh perspective, and the energy they bring to our organization. We are proud to continue our partnership with MTSU's Gore Center in preserving the artifacts, books, and writings of our Hall of Fame members, and also proud to continue working with the State Museum of Tennessee to promote the history of aviation to our young people. 2 years ago, when we held this event, we could not have imagined how 2020 would unfold. All of us who work in the aviation industry owe a debt of gratitude to the airports in our state, the leaders of the airports, our elected leaders in the state and local government for navigating us through the crisis unlike anything any of us have ever experienced. In March last year, when the world was shutting down, Tennessee's aviation system kept running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as a part of the critical infrastructure to keep this country and this state running. Thanks to all of you in the room who kept showing up and making it work through a very difficult time. Tennessee has fared better than most states because of your leadership and dedication. I would like to ask for a round of applause for our airport executives and leaders in this room. Finally, a big thank you to FedEx. Welcome to all of you who made the trip from Memphis for being our signature event sponsor. I would also like to thank our reception sponsors, the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority and CEO Doug Crulin. Thank you for making it again. I think you earned your Aviation Person of the Year award in 2020, absolutely, for managing through the crisis. Thanks to the Metropolitan Knoxville Airport Authority and the Memphis County Shelby Airport Authority for also being reception sponsors. Without you, this event would not be possible. Please give a round of applause to our sponsors tonight. Please take time to visit the silent auction located at the tables in the back of the room. We're going to have an intermission after dinner before the induction ceremony starts, and bids continue until 15 minutes after the close of the induction ceremony. I would like to now turn the program over to our good friend, fellow board member, and the master of tonight's ceremony, Mr. Clay Dareberry, and ask him to deliver our invocation.
Dear precious Father in heaven, hallowed be your great and good name. Thank you for this day. Thank you for our lives. Thank you for our unique place in the universe. Thank you, dear Lord, for the gift of flight. And dear Father, we're so very thankful we've been able to participate in that. We're thankful that it is useful to people all over the world. And dear Father, we're so very thankful that we are able to participate in that. We're so very thankful for these inductees tonight. We're so thankful for the things that they have accomplished. And dear Father, we hope and pray that you will give them long lives as we leave here tonight. Dear Father, we are very thankful for this food. We hope and pray you'll bless the folks here that prepared it. Bless it in nourishing our bodies. Bless us as we go through this evening. Help us and bless us and have mercy on all of us. In Christ's name, amen.
Isn't this, once again, just a wonderful opportunity to get together and see everybody again after the last year and a half? It's been quite an adventure for a lot of people, I'm sure, including myself. Just give me a second here while I get my paperwork together. And I'd like to tell you about a couple of awards that the FAA issues to individuals with a certain amount of experience. And we'd like to recognize two individuals tonight. And it's a great opportunity for me to do one of these awards in particular, because I historically don't have that opportunity. My counterpart does the Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award, so it's a unique opportunity for me as well to present one of those. Let me tell you a little bit about the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award. I know many of you have heard of that award, but there's always some people who haven't. It's the FAA's most prestigious award, and this is issued to pilots who are certificated under Part 61. The Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award recognizes individuals who have exhibited exemplary aviation expertise, distinguished professionalism, and steadfast commitment for 50 or more years of piloting experience. The Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award is also the most prestigious award the FAA issues to mechanics certificated under Part 65 of the Federal Aviation Regulations. Most people have never heard of Charles Taylor. Most people have heard of the Wright brothers. The Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award recognizes individuals who have exhibited exemplary aviation expertise, distinguished professionalism, and steadfast commitment for 50 or more years of aviation maintenance experience. The award is actually named in honor of Mr. Charles Taylor, the first aviation mechanic for manned, powered, controlled flight that the Wright brothers achieved. Mr. Taylor served as the Wright brothers mechanic and is credited with designing and building the engine that was used on that first successful aircraft. And actually, Charles Taylor III, the great-grandson, is still alive. I'm sure many people here in the room may have met him. He lives up in the Chicago area. I once had the opportunity about, maybe 20 years ago, I gave him a check ride in an airplane. So, but he is alive and well, and he's actually, signed a lot of the Charles Taylor books for people and things of that nature. But I would like to call these two individuals up. The Master Pilot Award recipient tonight is going to be Mr. Mike Aiken. Mike, if you would please approach the stage. And thank you. I met Mike for the first time just a short time ago earlier. And Bob Hancock, wherever you are in the room, if you would work your way up here as well. Both of you guys can stand on either side of the podium if you'd like to. It is difficult to compress 50-plus years of aviation, or in this case more than 100 years between the two of them, into the short amount of time that we have here. But I just want to give you a general overview of the careers of both of these individuals. And firstly, I would also like to recognize that both of them happen to be U.S. Navy veterans, so if we could give them a hand and thank them for their service. And Michael, we'll talk about the Master Pilot Award first. Michael Allen Aiken began his Navy flight training in 1968, where he soloed T-34 in August of 1968. Between 1969 and 1978, he was active duty Navy, flying various aircraft, including the A-4, the F-8, the Crusader, and the A-7, accumulating over 3,000 hours of active duty flying, including 350 plus arrested landings on 6 different aircraft carriers. Yeah. Indeed. In 1978, between 1978 and 1987, he transitioned to the Naval Reserves, where he flew the A-7 Corsair. And he did so until his retirement as a commander in the Navy in 1987. In 1978, when the same year he went to the reserves, Mike was hired as a pilot at Federal Express, based in Memphis, Tennessee. I've got a lot of friends that fly there, too. Yeah, maybe some are here, I don't even know. But he initially started on the Falcon 20, so you are one of the early guys. And then transitioned, of course, to the Boeing 727, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, and also was a captain on the McDonnell Douglas MD-11. He was also a check airman and instructor on the 727 and MD-11, and served as initial cadre as the launch customer for the MD-11. And he was also the MD-11 flight training manager at Federal Express as well. He retired at age 60 in December of 2006 with a total accumulated flying time of approximately 18,000 hours. Between 2007 and 2013, Mike purchased and flew a Beech Baron, BE-58, and flew that about 100 hours a year or so. At one point, he purchased and flew a Russian L-29 jet and did some air shows, but I don't think we ever bumped into each other.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, you'd be going a lot, even the L-29 is a lot faster than anything I fly. It's funny, at air shows, you know, those of us that fly the World War II things don't really associate with the other groups. It's funny, you get these little cliques, you know. In 2015, he purchased a flight design light sport aircraft, which he flies about 80 hours a year, and he also obtained his light sport repairman certificate so he could work on his own airplane. So let me tell you a little bit about Bob Hancock, another Navy guy, and interestingly enough, joined the Navy in 1968. So you guys are the same era here. You didn't work on any of his airplanes, did you?
Could on a Crusader.
Yeah?
Crusader.
The Crusaders, the F-8s? There you go.
Good. I'm glad you took care of me.
Bob joined the Navy in 1968, and from 1968 to 1971 was an aviation structural mechanic. After his discharge, Bob attended a tech school to obtain his airframe and power plant certificate and also worked at the airport that was nearby. And it was during this time that he met his wife, Pam, who he married in April of 1973. And I bet she's here too. His first job after school was at Smoky Mountain Aviation, maintaining Piper and Cessna aircraft. From there, he moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and maintaining twin-engine aircraft at Bomer Flying Service. They were around for many years. Then he moved back to Maryville and working for Executive Airways. I remember them as well, maintaining flight school and charter aircraft. The next move was to Nashville as Director of Maintenance for International Airways. He moved to another company that shared the same hangar, which would later become Nashville Jet Center. He maintained Learjets, a Bell 206 Jet Ranger, and performed service on the GE CJ610 engines. In 1976, he received his inspection authorization, what we call an IA in the industry. He became interested in avionics at this time and also accepted a position with Greater South Avionics and installed autopilots and other major avionics in various aircraft. He then accepted a position as the shop manager for Big Brother aircraft that did everything associated with twin commander aircraft for the most part. It was here he gained experience with the Garrett TPE 331 series of engines. Also, while at Big Brother Aircraft, Bob earned his private pilot single and multi-engine land ratings. He then accepted a position as Director of Marketing with Aviation Services Corporation and was involved in aircraft sales, maintenance, and also avionics. It was from here in June of 1982 that Bob decided to start his own company, Hancock Enterprises. As an FAA certified repair station based in Smyrna, Tennessee, they specialize in overhaul of all models of the Garrett TPE 331 and the Pratt & Whitney PT6 engine through the hot section inspection. They are a certified repair station for all Turbo Commanders, King Airs, Cessna Conquest 1 and 2, Fairchild Merlins and Metros, and also the MT propeller sales and service involved there too. So quite a lengthy career there. It's rare I get to do the Charles Taylor Award, and I kind of have a lot of respect because, you know, as a young person in my career, particularly when I was flying DC-3s and Beech 18s, I would work in the shop as well, and that's where you really learned about your aircraft, you know, from the guys that were working in the shop that enabled you to become an airman as opposed to just a pilot. So I have a lot of respect for the maintenance people as well. So let's take a moment here, and Mike, I have your Master Pilot plaque here, dated November 6, 2021, in your recognition of 50 years of exemplary aviation flight experience, distinguished professionalism, and steadfast commitment to aviation safety. Congratulations.
You're back. And the box and everything's in there.
And Bob's here is still in the wrapper. Robert R. Hancock, November 6, 2021, in recognition of your 50 years of exemplary aviation maintenance experience, distinguished professionalism, and steadfast commitment to aviation safety, we issued the Charles Taylor Master Mechanic Award. There you go, guys. You want to say a couple words? Go ahead, Mike.
First off, I would like to thank the FAA for the award, and my comments are going to be short and sweet. It's been a heck of a ride. 20 years in the Navy and 29 at FedEx, and I loved every minute of it, and I continue doing it today. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to my beloved wife, Pam, for putting up with me in aviation because of the hours that I have to deal with. I also want to say there's a lot of people in this room that have helped me. Some of them are no longer alive, but helped me to mentor and to do the job over and above that you have to do. I also want to say something that's good is that my son's a legacy. He's following in my footsteps. Sometimes we have a few arguments, but I always win. But again, I wanted to say thank you. I have a very much passion and satisfaction for the maintenance end of the business. And to keep people that are in this room safe is a commitment until I no longer can practice aviation. Thank you.
And once again, thank you, and thank you to the Board of Directors for allowing us this portion of time at your event. Thank you.
Because I fly, I laugh more than other men. I look up and see more than they. I know how the clouds feel, what it's like to have the blue in my lap, to look down on birds, to feel freedom in a thing called the stick. Who but I can slice between God's billowed legs and feel them laugh and crash with his step? Who else has seen the unclimbed peaks, the rainbow's secret, the real reason birds sing? Because I fly, I envy no one on earth. We have a unique and dear thing that we participate in, and tonight we want to honor those who have made extraordinary strides and accomplishments in that area. And we will begin with Mr. William Gregory Elliott. I will read his biography, then I'll call him forward and present him with his award. William Gregory Elliott. Tennessee's primary law enforcement organization began as the Tennessee Bureau of Criminal Investigations, a plainclothes division of the Department of Safety, in March 1951. It was reestablished as an independent agency, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, in 1980. The aviation unit and aircraft equipped in the latest technology enabled the agency to meet the demands of providing up-to-date investigative forensic science and to support Tennessee's entire criminal justice system. Greg Elliott was a founding member of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Aviation Unit in 1999. TBI Aviation began operating a Cessna 182 Skylane in 2000, and in 2016 acquired a Pilatus PC-12 November Golf aircraft to support TBI investigations and the needs of other federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. TBI's aviation unit consists of an assistant special agent in charge who serves as a full-time pilot, 3 additional full-time flight crew members, and 2 contract pilots. The SAC reports directly to TBI's deputy director. Greg became the TBI's chief pilot in 2007. During his tenure, the unit logged more than 6,000 accident-free flight hours. Mr. Elliott retired in August of 2019 after serving with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for over 30 years. Greg has been instrumental in locating and apprehending multiple dangerous fugitives, the reduction of narcotics on the streets of Tennessee, and has flown countless hours in support of Amber Alerts and Silver Alerts. He has continued to assist the unit as a contract pilot after his formal retirement. The Bureau's aircraft are used for surveillance, intelligence gathering, and the transport of critical personnel in support of law enforcement operations. For extraordinary service and dedication to aviation and law enforcement for Tennessee, our nation, and the world, William Gregory Elliott is honored by and inducted into the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame this November 6th, 2021. Greg, if you'd come forward. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
And here's a plaque, and I've got a medallion that I'll put on you. Good, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And if you'll step right there. Next is Donald L. McDonald. Donald McDonald grew up on a farm in the Blackman community of Rutherford County. His family raised crops and livestock. He attended campus school, Murfreesboro Central High School, and Middle Tennessee State College, now MTSU. 2 years pre-engineering, 2 years Navy cadet school. He then studied industrial arts technology. Donald's passion has always been flying, but his career was with the Middle Tennessee Electric Corporation. Donald's love for aviation began in 1957 while a student at MTSC. He earned his private pilot's license in 1958. His flying continued to another level when he applied for naval pilot training via the Naval Aviation Cadet Program. He was trained in T-34 and T-28 aircraft. During the 1970s, his personal flying was primarily in ultralights he built. He now owns a Cessna 172 XP and a Super Cub. Donald and his wife, Frances, are dedicated supporters and advocates of general aviation, especially pilot training and aviation education. In the early 1980s, they purchased a farm near Murfreesboro and had soon constructed a pristine 2,350-foot runway, registered with the FAA as a private restricted airfield. In 1990, the McDonalds began hosting summer fly-ins for all that wanted to attend. They share their beautiful hangar with various aviation groups as well as area civic and educational groups. Donald was a founding member of the Airfield Owners Association. In 2004, the McDonald's established the Endowed Fund for Financially Challenged Students at MTSU, sponsoring 2 students each year, one in aerospace and another in engineering. In 2008, the McDonald's made a sizable contribution toward the construction of MTSU's newest hangar, later named the Donald McDonald Aerospace Maintenance Laboratory. Donald has been very active with the MTSU Aerospace Industry Advisory Committee since its inception, served on the MTSU Foundation Board from 2011 to 2017. In 2014 was presented the MTSU True Blue Citation of Distinction Award for service to the university. In 2018, he was presented the Federal Aviation Administration's Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award. Donald is an active member of the EAA Chapter 419 and Chapter 104. He is a charter member and board member of the Bill Sattler Memorial Foundation for Aerospace Education at the Lebanon Airport. His other hobbies include small game hunting, bird dog training, guns and ammo reloading. For extraordinary contributions to aviation in Tennessee, our nation, and the world, David Lee McDonald is honored by and inducted into the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame, November 6th, 2021. Donald. Congratulations, my man.
Thank you.
And I've got a medallion here for you to put around your neck.
So I get to wear the red ribbon, huh?
Yes, sir. One of the choice few.
Thank you.
Good man. So I guess you want to say something. All right, we do.
Well, did you see that good-looking bird dog in that picture? He won first place in a field trial last Saturday among 22 other dogs. All right. He said, keep it short. I don't have but 2 pages. However, it's big print. As you can tell, we've been working with and mentoring young people in aviation for many years. Tonight, I would like to commend 3 organizations that I have been associated with over the years. The first is the very active EAA Chapter 862 in Lebanon. This chapter has over 100 members, and they've carried hundreds of young eagles on introductory flights. And I might say probably thousands, because they've been doing this for years, and they do 50 and 75 at a time, so I'm sure there's a lot more than I know of. They have recruited students interested in aviation and encouraged them to participate in chapter activities. And as a matter of fact, 4 of the students that they mentored and obtained scholarships for are here tonight. Now, how about that? That's great. In addition to that, 2 of those students have obtained their private pilot's license with these scholarships, and the other 2 are working on them. And we're just really proud of these kids. This is one of the few chapters that I visited that they bring kids in and keep them active and keep them in their activities, whether it's serving lunch or breakfast on Saturday or whatever. They do an excellent job of this. And they recently acquired and awarded 4 of those scholarships, 3 for $10,000 and 1 for $5,000. So we're really proud of the group there. And in addition to that, the second organization is the Sattler Foundation. And April Duggar is here tonight, and she has a lot of her students here. And as a matter of this, the whole purpose of this foundation is to recruit and educate middle and high school students in aviation. Through the years, they have accomplished this with 2 successful week-long summer camps at no cost to their families. And I happen to be able to help with some of this, and believe it or not, these 4 students that went through the private training and got the scholarships were Sadler High School students. So they went through the camp and then became pilots. So that goes to show that we need to spend more time working with our young people and less time with us old guys that are sitting around telling war stories, you know. The third organization is my alma mater, the MTSU Aerospace Program, and had some really fancy figures here to put on you. I hope they're true. In 1957, and that's a long time ago, started taking flying lessons at MTSC Flight School. We had a Piper J3 and a PA-11, and we didn't know what a tail wheel endorsement was. You pilots that have to go get a tail wheel endorsement, you really need to go through flight training. And I can't recall a radio on any of them, but to be honest. I think we had to rent a plane to take across countries with a VOR in it. At that time, we had 3 or 4 part-time instructors, and I won't tell you what they charged per hour. It was pretty good. Like, I think $18 an hour. Can you believe that? Well, anyway, since that time, they have a total of 1,278 students in 6 different concentrations, including a UAS program, which is going great guns. The Pro Pilot program has grown exponentially in the last few years and now has 897 trainees. Can you believe that? 900 students. That's unbelievable. And there are over 100 instructors and 35 state-of-the-art airplanes with glass panels, GPS, and ADS-B. Now, boy, I'm telling you, that's something. And it's not cheap, as you well know. The university officials believe that they will fly between 29,000 and 31,000 hours this year. A lot of hours. If you guys fly, you know what that means. And I understand that they have plans for a sizable expansion. I hope those work out. In conclusion, I want to thank my good friends for nominating me, and I want to thank the board for selecting me. And this has been one of the highlights of my life. Thank you.
Thanks, Donald. Many of you know me. I'm beginning to get old, and my mind slips a gear every now and then. I didn't even give Greg a chance to speak. You want to speak? Yes, sir. All right.
I've been married for 36 years, and I'm used to just doing what I'm told to do. He said to go sit in that chair right there, and I said, yes, sir. I see a lot of old folks out here, but for any of you young folks that are out there, if you've just been married, there's a lesson right there for you to learn. First of all, let me say how humbled I am to be nominated for this. I told my wife this morning, I said, I don't feel worthy of this because of the magnitude of the people that are in this room right here. But I am very humbled, very honored by my colleagues that nominated me for this. I'll talk about them in a little bit, but I really appreciate and am extremely, extremely humbled by the fact that you nominated me for this award. Now, if you read the bios, you see that Tennessee Bureau of Investigation started their aviation program in approximately the year 2000 with a Cessna 182, and that is correct, but its roots go back to 1991 when a young 20-something-year-old, not too bright, but very enthusiastic person saw an opportunity to start an aviation program with TBI, simply because he just really, ever since he was about this old, wanted to fly. And my father used to take me up and fly in an airplane, and I would get sick every time. I would throw up in briefcases, I would throw up in whatever he had, but I always wanted to go back again. And I know some of you won't admit it, but some of you have experienced the same thing. Fortunately, I got over that and was able to fly. But I've always wanted to fly, and I saw an opportunity. And I told my wife, we were young, we didn't have very much money, we had 2 young babies. And I said, we've got an opportunity here that I need to take advantage of. And so after a lot of back and forth, she reluctantly said, go ahead. And I plopped down a credit card. $2,500 later, and about 3 months after that, I had a private pilot's license. Went to the deputy director of the Bureau, and I said, I got a pilot's license, I'm a pilot, I can fly an airplane. Let's start an aviation program. And we did, kind of. The very first mission that TBI embarked on was in a Cessna 152 that we rented from a local FBO, and we went out and did a covert drug surveillance with 2 full-grown adults and some equipment. And I won't take any questions about that after how we pulled that off afterwards. I'm just going to say that we're still around to tell about it because we were young and probably dumb, but we were very enthusiastic. And that's the roots of the program and how it started. And we did a few surveillances after that. I will say we did it at least in a 172 after that because we weren't smart enough or didn't know how to even fly a 182 at the time. So we did that. Fast forward year 2000, we purchased a 182. We outfitted it with a Infometrics thermal imagery camera that was able to do thermal imagery, color camera, and we even had a fancy little spotlight on the other side of the airplane that we really didn't know how to operate very well, but it was there and we looked good whenever we went out there and tried to use it. And as far as I know, we were the only civilian law enforcement or civilian agency that I know of that was doing that at that time with a fixed wing aircraft. And so we started doing that. Fast forward, I won't bore you with a lot of the details, but a whole lot of surveillances later. We apprehended fugitives, we apprehended drug dealers, we took a lot of drugs off the street, and we found missing children, prisoners. We worked hard. Back in those days, we had to work a full caseload, plus we had to fulfill the duties of piloting the aircraft and doing it in a safe manner. And I can say to this day, we've been doing this for almost 20 years. We are 100% accident-free, and we've had no instances other than every once in a while we have a lapse in judgment, but we won't talk about that. But we get the job done. And so now, fast forward, we saw a need, my colleagues and I. My partner, I've got to say, Pat Looney, who is, he and I have been partners for a long time and trying to get this program going. The names have changed and the people have changed a little bit, but he's been right by my side, and we've worked hand in hand in trying to do this. And we found out that sometimes it's hard to get things done unless the right people in management get involved. And we found the best way to get them involved was to get them inside the airplane. So it took getting the director cooped up in the 182 and having an engine failure and takeoff on an IFR day coming out of the Nashville airport at 200 feet off the ground to make him decide that we need a better airplane. And so we embarked on that journey, and without boring you with all the details, we ended up with the airplane that you saw earlier, a Pilatus PC-12. And it's the only aircraft that Pilatus has ever made that does what it does. It's a hybrid between their passenger transport executive airplane and their Spectre airplane. Our call sign is Spectre 63 because we think it sounds cool. And but we have, the aviation program has just, I can't tell you the kind of things that we do now. And since my retirement, Pat's taken over the unit, and he's taken it to places that probably we wouldn't have been able to go to had I not retired. And he's done an excellent job. The unit is growing. We're doing more things. We're taking drugs off the street. We're apprehending fugitives. We're finding missing people. And it's just unbelievable the amount of things that we're doing. And I want to recognize these guys. Almost all of them are here now. We started out with 4 people. All of those people are gone except me, and now the names have changed, but now we have a good, solid group of people, and all of them, but we're missing one TFO that was here. But you guys stand up, because I want to recognize all you guys over there that make this program. I have no doubt, when you guys are asleep at night, a lot of times, these guys are out looking for a missing child, or they're apprehending a dangerous drug dealer or finding a fugitive. And many of you don't even know that these people exist, but they're out there, and those people are out there and leaving their families and going out there. And I need to really thank my wife, because she let me do this a long time ago. And has also had to put up with a lot of nights and days with me not being there. And we talk about our grandkids, and she says, well, our grandkids is just like, my son's got a child. And she said, well, he's just like William used to be. I said, well, I don't remember that. She says, because you was never here. And so she had to take care of those kids. But I won't bore you with any more. But we have got a tremendous program. It's under a tremendous amount of leadership, and I have no doubt that the Bureau's aviation program is going to be the program that other people look to in the future whenever they look for a law enforcement aviation program and who to model that program after. TBI is going to be at the top of that list of places to go to and figure out how to do it, and it's because of these guys that are sitting over here at this table right now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. It thrills the board to be able to recognize folks in law enforcement who are using aviation to their advantage and to help keep the public safe. And not long ago, we inducted Mike Dover, who is with the Highway Patrol, and we're tickled to have Greg, and we're tickled with the work that they are doing. Give them another big hand. Our posthumous induction is Harry Porter. Harry Porter was an aviation pioneer in Chattanooga. His 64-year career as the staunch supporter of Chattanooga aviation began in the 1920s. Early in his aviation career, Harry participated in barnstorming and in air shows. Harry first flew an airplane from Marr Field in East Chattanooga in 1923. Marr Field was located on the west side of Missionary Ridge, where treacherous crosswinds caused many accidents. Lovell Field on the eastern side of the ridge was constructed in 1930. Porter Flight Service was formed in 1931. In 1938, the Tennessee Bureau of Aeronautics started a free flight instruction program with Harry as the instructor. The program was designed to encourage aviation in every major Tennessee city. The state civilian pilot trainee program, named War Training Service, was started in 1942, and Porter's Flight Service was employed to train military pilots. Student pilots attended classes in the morning at the University of Chattanooga and took flight instruction at Level Field in the afternoon under Porter's supervision. The program continued until 1944, and over 800 pilots obtained the primary training that qualified them for the Army Air Corps. In 1967, he sold the business to another fixed-base operation, Hangar 1. He remained a full-time consultant until his death in 1988. In 1974, he was given the Amelia Earhart Award by the 99s, an international women's flying organization, in recognition of his 80th birthday. When he flew a plane at the age of 90, he was considered the oldest active pilot in the country. In the 80s, a new air traffic control tower at Lovell Field was named the Harry Porter Tower in his honor. Harry Porter served as a sergeant in World War I in France and was buried in the National Cemetery in Chattanooga when he died at the age of 94. For extraordinary contributions to aviation for Tennessee, our nation, and the world, Chattanooga aviation pioneer Harry Porter is posthumously inducted into the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame this 6th day of November, 2021. And one of our new board members, Mark Cheney, is going to accept this award on his behalf. Have some words?
Well, good evening. Let me start off by saying Harry Porter was a remarkable man, and I'm very honored and thankful that I knew him. And it's my great honor to accept this induction into the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame on his behalf. As one of the newest members of this board and a native Chattanooga, I can tell you this is very special to me on a number of levels. As a 5-year-old boy, my father took me to Lovell Field to Porter Flying Service for my first airplane ride, and Harry Porter was at the controls. I met Mr. Porter again at age 15 when I was a student pilot, and I heard lots of tales and stories of his exploits over the years. Once I became a young aircraft mechanic in Chattanooga, I heard a lot of more stories about this extraordinary man. Then in the 1980s, I worked in a hangar with Jim Bynum Jr., who was a Charles Taylor Award winner, whose son is here with us tonight, Jim Bynum III. And Mr. Porter used to come by and see us every Saturday morning. So for over 3 years, I had the pleasure of seeing and visiting with him almost every weekend when he stopped by to see us. Finally, about 22 years ago, my company, Coca-Cola Consolidated Incorporated, had the opportunity, and we had the pleasure also of storing his memorabilia when some changes happened at the Chattanooga airport. And one of the things we did before we moved our operation to Charlotte was we helped make arrangements with the Chattanooga Regional History Museum to preserve his memorabilia in perpetuity. It was a great pleasure knowing and interacting with a man who was truly a legend in his own time. Thank you very much.
I want to add my remarks that I'm kind of semi-retired, but I work a couple of days at Chattanooga, and he's quite a legend there. Let me also say we're extremely thankful for FedEx for being a sponsor for this event, and Our last induction is going to be introduced and taken care of by Mr. Mike Aiden.
Before I get to my prepared remarks, everyone that has a program may have already read the historical facts on Flight 705 that Clay has read for all the other inductees. Not to diminish any of the previous people that have experienced this phenomenal recognition and this incredible award, Flight 705 is different. It's different in so many ways I could not even address all the ways that it's different. For one, those of you who know Bob Minter, and I'm sure a lot of you do, he's a force to be reckoned with, and the board will probably acknowledge that. He is the honcho, as I call him, behind most all of this, and he has a good board to back his ideas and what he does. And so I started coming here, my wife and I started coming here, and I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago, with our good friend, we were invited guest, Mr. Byron Conaway. Byron, stand up over there, okay? And it was a very rewarding experience for us and a tremendous education. And over the years, FedEx has had several pilots, and number one on the seniority list, or pardon me, on the employee list is Fred Smith, inducted into this Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame. Suffice it to say, every one of those people were honored and they were respected, and they're still talked about today. People like Fred Smith, Will Hoyt, who flew in Korea, was one of the oldest active flying pilots in the United States, was inducted. A lady by the name of Mary Dilda, who won many Reno air races and was also a FedEx pilot and a U.S. Air Force pilot, was inducted. Another gentleman named Kurt Watson. And how many of you have ever heard of Kurt Watson? Give me a show of hands. There you go. A lot of people knew him. He was a star football player for the University of Tennessee. He was also a Navy pilot and a Blue Angel, and also a FedEx pilot. And I think the last inductee from FedEx was Mr. Cecil Brunson, who retired from the Air Force as a lieutenant colonel, and he was a POW in Vietnam. So back to Mr. Bob Minter. Since my wife and I started coming here several years ago, and I saw that all these wonderful people and very successful people in Tennessee Aviation were inducted, my wife and I have been friends with David and Susan Sanders for 40 years. And I was very close to the traumatic event that happened on April 7th of 1994. Knowing David and Susan so well and flying with him in the early days, and also knowing Jim Tucker, the co-pilot. And he was a student of mine in the Navy, and I helped sponsor him at FedEx. So the day that Flight 705 happened was a turning event for the company, for the pilots, for the families, for every extended family along the line, and it has been recognized, and I will speak later on that, and they've already received several very prestigious awards, but nothing like this one. And so I'm going to introduce the crew in a minute, but I have some prepared remarks, and I did forget about one thing. Mr. Bob Minter, when I first met him, I asked him a question. I said, why don't we induct the crew of Flight 705? And with his bold voice and his very strong demeanor, he said, we don't induct crews, we only induct individual people. So I knew I had a force to be reckoned with. So it took a couple of years for me to prompt Mr. Bob Minter and get him to learn a little bit more about Flight 705. And that 3rd year later, he had either read the book, and I don't remember which one, or he had watched the video that we're getting ready to show. And I met him out in the lobby at the Embassy Suites at the bar, and he came up to me and he says, shook my knee, and he says, Mike, he says, what about Flight 705? And I said, well, you tell me. And he said, maybe we ought to think about inducting them. So I think this is a one-of-a-kind event tonight, and I would like to address some of these remarks that are near and dear to me, and I'm honored to be asked to present the crew. First, I'd like to recognize Captain David Sanders. Besides David and his wife Susan, and I would like for both of you to stand, and Susan has been besides David's side through this life-changing event. Another, by the way, my wife and Janie, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, have been close friends of these people for 40 years. So I think they both deserve an applause. Sadly, their daughter Lauren, their only child, could not be here tonight because she's in California. But please give an applause to Captain Sanders and his wife Susan. Next is the co-pilot, Jim Tucker. Unfortunately, Jim and his wife Becky could not be with us here tonight. However, since this entire event is being videotaped in the back, in just a minute, I would also like to receive applause on their behalf for Jim and Becky Tucker. Jim had one of the toughest jobs in this fight for their lives because he was the most severely injured. And he ended up, as you will see in the video that we're going to present to you in a few minutes, he ended up flying this airplane, basically paralyzed on the right side of his body with his left hand, blood streaming down his face. And as he will describe to you in one of the interviews in this video, he was so disabled, that he couldn't even get out of his seat for the first 10 or 15 minutes while the fight was going on in the back of the airplane. So all Jim could do as a trained Navy pilot was, I'll use the airplane as a weapon, because this bad guy in the back of the airplane that Andy and David are fighting for their lives, Jim couldn't help him, except by using the airplane and grabbing the controls and maneuvering the airplane through all different kinds of gyrations to throw the perpetrator and the bad guy off his feet and give David and Andy a chance to at least try to control him. So I would appreciate this round of applause in a minute, because Jim's effort to thwart the hijacker and his attempts to, the hijacker's attempts, to kill the crew and take over the airplane, much of that success of that flight was because of Jim Tucker. And much more on his amazing aerial feats, he did things that, with that airplane, that had never, ever, ever been done on a cargo category airplane. And so it will be riveting to watch when you see the video in a few minutes. And on behalf of Jim and Becky and their family who are at home tonight, and we're once again sorry they couldn't attend, I would like a big round of applause for the video. Thank you, Jim. The third person involved was the flight engineer, Andy Peterson. Andy and his wife, Susan, will you please stand? Andy was the first of the crew to be surprised by the attacker, and Andy received the first hammer blow, which could have been a death knell to him. He was severely injured from the start, but he played a vital role throughout the battle. He fought the hijacker to the very end, and in spite of a massive blood loss. At one point, he even grabbed the attacker's spear gun with his bare hands. His valiant efforts, in spite of the life-threatening injuries, are a testimony to not only his character, but his will to win the battle at all costs. Congratulations to Andy. I would also like to recognize Andy and Susan's family and friends. Andy has 2 extra tables for 20 more people to join him tonight because that's what his family and friends think about Andy. A year or 2 ago, not the chairman, I don't even know what his official title is today because FedEx changes so damn many titles, I can't keep up with them. But Fred Smith is #1, and he formed the company, and he has a contingent of representatives here tonight, which I'll address in a minute. But a few weeks ago, Fred Smith, who seldom writes personal letters, wrote a personal letter to these 3 crew members, and we'd like to show it now. So you might recognize some of the language in there, but the highlight is in the right side, of course, on the black field and the white lettering. So I encourage you to take just a few minutes to read that letter. Okay, thank you, Jeff. As Clay mentioned earlier, FedEx was the gold sponsor of this event, and that's a very, very important sponsorship, and we're so proud that FedEx decided to do this. And they also decided, as Clay mentioned earlier, to send approximately 30 representatives to be here tonight and share in the honor for this valiant FedEx crew. So if you haven't read the color insert inside the cover of your program, I encourage you to do so. And FedEx has acknowledged this crew in that cover by stating, quote, "These are the best of the best, and they will always remain part of our FedEx family." So I would like to recognize at least, I can't recognize all 30 people, but Scott Struminger, the CEO of Aviation. Scott, will you please stand? Justin Brownlee, the Senior Vice President. Stuart Harrow, who is a VP. Pat Demento, who's a VP. And Rob Sabasco, who is FedEx's System Chief Pilot. Now, could we play the short video, Jeff?
I'm fortunate to work with the thousands of men and women at FedEx who operate our planes around the world and around the clock every day. One thing virtually all have in common is a desire to do the right thing, deliver the cargo on time safely for something larger than themselves, for FedEx. Another thing I see every day is a desire to take care of each other. Every day, our pilots strive to train for the unknown, the unplanned, made more urgent by startle and surprise. Times where checklists and thoughtful plans do not apply, but where leadership in its very purest form becomes front and center. When we think about how we hope to react in times like this, our standard for conduct is Sanders, Tucker, and Peterson, the crew of Flight 705. We are humbled and honored by your legacy and eternally grateful that you're part of the FedEx team.
As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, FedEx Flight 705 crew has received many other awards. Okay, and I'll let you read the screen. I won't read it to you, but as you can see, everywhere from the Airline Pilots Association to Lloyd's of London to recognition at Oshkosh as Grand Marshals, and the list goes on. But in my belief, as David and Susan and Jim and Tucker and Becky and Andy and Susan go home tonight after receiving this award, they will consider it to be the biggest and best of all. Lastly, about the airplane that was supposed to have transported hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue to San Jose that day, but it never completed its mission. Not only because of the hijacked attempt, but it probably couldn't have made the 3-hour flight anyway after what Jim Tucker put it through, using it as a tool to assist David and Andy by performing almost fighter pilot plane maneuvering and pushing the airplane way, way beyond its limits, which created significant damage. FedEx, after the airplane got home and Captain David Sanders landed it, they spent almost $1 million rebuilding this airplane. And there it is, November 306 FE, and it has been brought back to life. It's still working hard. It produces untold amounts of revenue for FedEx for more than 27 years later. After one of the most disastrous events in U.S. commercial aviation history, the crew survived, and 306 FE survived as well. Now we'll present this video. It was produced in the Mayday Disaster Series. How many people have ever seen the video, please? Show of hands. Okay, maybe 20%. It was also the historical facts of this amazing feat by these three gentlemen is documented in a book called Hijacked, and there's one on the table in the back, on the silent auction table, that Captain David Sanders and Andy Peterson have signed, and it's an incredible book, and I encourage you to read it. This video that we're about to show is extremely professional and well done. It's factually presented with the actors portraying the role that the people played on that fateful day of April 7th, 1994. The original video, which you can look at on YouTube yourself when you go home, is almost an hour long. FedEx donated the services of Ms. Jennifer Owens, who is a senior multimedia specialist in air operations training, and through her professional expertise, she's edited it down to 17 minutes. And it's a riveting 17 minutes. If you haven't seen it, we encourage you to stay here and do so. It documents everything as it happens, and here it is. Lights, camera, action, Jennifer.
Amazing. I'd like to ask Mike if he would to come back up to the podium and help with this presentation. And let me just read this first. For extraordinary valor, bravery, courage, and airmanship, the FedEx Flight 705 crew is inducted into the Tennessee Aviation Hall of Fame this November 6, 2021. Welcome the crew. Come on up, gentlemen, if you will. Yeah, bring your wives.
Congratulations, David. You earned it.
Thank you, sir. It is. You want to put this around his neck? Ladies and gentlemen, big applause. And if either of you would like to speak, or both of you, you may.
That's the first time I've seen the video in about 10 years, so you'll have to bear with me here. I'd like to say a couple of thank yous, especially to Mike Aiken for sponsoring us for this honor, and to Roy Minner, and of course the board for approving it. I'd like to say thank you to FedEx for being here. It's wonderful to see all the crew members and the officials turn out for this. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to especially thank my friends and my family that came. We've had friends from Maryland come down just for this. My oldest daughter came, and her husband came from Hawaii just for this event. And it means a tremendous lot to me. It means a lot to me that they would share this honor with me. Thank you very much. Just a couple of little things that I want to say. FedEx has probably got the best training program in the whole airline industry. And they, trained us all the time to work as a crew, to work as a team. But on that particular day, what we were faced with, we never saw in training. We had, hand-to-hand combat that it started immediately after we passed through 18,000 feet, and it was just, anyway, the timing of things that happened, Jim rolling the airplane over upside down at the same time that I was trying to grab the spear to throw us out of the cockpit, and then David landing the airplane back at Memphis as soon as he could, as quickly as he could. Another 5 minutes, and I don't think we would have survived the event. But I say that to say that there was more than just us. We did the physical things, but God was with us, and I think that's the only way. That's the only way we really survived the event. I want to say thank you to all of y'all for coming. This is truly a great honor to be up here with these people, and I will cherish this for the rest of my life. Thank y'all very much.
Woo. Wow. I think the video says most of it, but not all of it. And I do have prepared remarks of this because I think it's essential that we carry on the tradition here at FedEx. The video is compelling and all that, so I think that, and the images stick with you. So I think that maybe it'd be a good time to lighten up a bit and say some things that are a bit more positive than what we saw on the video. And of course, I must say thank you to all of the people that have been involved in this. Bob, Mike, everyone, and very special that FedEx became a major sponsor. That really means a lot. To us, it means a lot to the FedEx employees, I know as well. I think that FedEx has always been about teamwork, and when you discuss FedEx, teamwork always comes up, and this was an example of teamwork. We trained together, we as a crew. We flew as a crew, and on that day, we fought as a crew, and we did that and more. We saved each other's lives. Well, I've been asked a number of times, well, David, how did you know you could land that airplane under those conditions? Well, my answer is, first, I was Navy trained. All right? And second, it's an airplane. And I learned in the Navy that an airplane has wings, and if you move enough air over the wings, the thing will fly. Well, the DC-10 doesn't know it has engines. If you move enough air over the wings, it will fly, and that's what I did. 7,000 feet, pull the engines back to idle. And so we were, in effect, a 150,000-pound glider trying to get back to the airport. Now, the challenge for that airplane, it's a slick airplane. It's hard to slow it down. So the challenge was getting the landing gear down at the right speed, the flaps out at the right speed. Speed brake was out all the way to the ground. That's certainly, you never do that. But we had to slow the airplane, and it's noted in the video, get the airplane down below 145 knots so you don't blow tires when you land. So you would think that once you get the landing gear out and the speed brakes out and the flaps out in full, that the airplane would slow down. Well, it did, but it took a while. So the short of that is that it's an airplane, and you fly it like you fly an airplane, and fortunately we got it on the ground before the guy in the back who's trying to kill us could get on his feet again. I'll tell you, there are a few things that happened on the flight, during the flight, and after the flight that's somewhat amusing. I told Bob about this, and I said, Bob, what if I mentioned some things that were somewhat amusing? He says, every incident there's something that's funny. So maybe we can not be morbid about this and think there are a few things that were somewhat amusing. So when we finally got the airplane landed and stopped the airplane on the runway, I opened the door on the right side of the airplane. And when I open the door, the slide comes down for an escape slide. And the airplane is surrounded by medics and police. So I come out of the cockpit, go to the back, look around, I see a spear gun on the floor. I pick up the spear gun. I walk to the door that I had opened, and the police and medics started backing away. I guess they thought I was the bad guy with a gun. So when I saw that, I tossed the spear gun down and went over to the door on the right side. And here's the medic trying to climb up the slide. Well, now, that should be a comic video. It was a fun, they got halfway up and slide down, halfway up and slide down. They put a ladder on the slide and deflated it. So now what do we do? Well, one of the medics had the right shoes on. He climbed up close enough to the door. I could lean out, and grab his hand and pull him on board the airplane. So he comes on board and he has handcuffs with him. His first words were, "Who's the bad guy?" You know, when I got out of the cockpit and came to the back, I looked down at Jim and Andy and the bad guy, and I didn't know how injured anyone was because they all looked the same, although I was the only one walking. So we got the handcuffs, put them on the bad guy, handcuffed his hand together, rolled him over on his back. And so then I opened the door on the left side of the airplane, and Andy and Jim went down the slide. The medics were waiting for them, and they took them and began to treat them at that point. So the medic says, well, why don't you stand on the chain that connects the handcuffs, and it will tend to demobilize the bad guy. And I said, I'll do that. So I do, and I'm standing there, and this guy's on his back. He's looking up at me, and he opens his eyes and said, "You're hurting my hands. Can you move your foot?" I can tell you I did not apologize. So I'm walking around the back of the airplane, and by this time we have probably 2 or 3 more policemen up, a couple of medics. So I'm walking around, I'm the only one there, Jim and Andy are down, and I'm thinking, well, I might need to sign something. He has respect for the FAA, you know. And I believe we have a representative from here. So I go into the cockpit. If I'm going to sign something, I need my glasses. I wore glasses back then. So I look around for my glasses, and over on my jet kit, which is on the left side of the pilot seat, there are my glasses. There's an earpiece bent 90 degrees, and I straighten it out, put it in my pocket, and walk back to the back of the airplane, and now they're treating the bad guys. He's trying to do whatever he's trying to do, but he's severely wounded. So when he asked me that I'm hurting his hands, the guy had been hit 4 times in the head with a 20-ounce framing hammer, twice with a 2-pound sledgehammer, and he fractured his skull, and I'm hurting his hands. That was just an amazing thing. So I walked back in the airplane. I had this powerful thirst. We had a cooler in the airplane at the time. It was loaded with crystal geyser water. I pulled one of those ice things out, tossed it down the slide, asked him to hold it for me, and I'll come down and drink it. And as mentioned in the video, standing in that door, I had this overwhelming sense of euphoria because we had fought the fight. We had taken the airplane to the edge and brought it back in, and we won. A feeling I've never had before or since. So now that I have my water waiting for me, I jump on the slide and I go down the slide. That's kind of fun, actually. If you ever get to do it, you ought to try it. It's really kind of fun. So I pick up the ice cold bottle of water and I walk around drinking it, and I'm looking for the crew. Can't see the crew. Where are they? So I said, where's Andy? He was the first one down, or second one down. And the guy points to the ambulance. He's over there. He's going to the hospital. I said, okay. So they moved me over to an empty ambulance, put me in. I'm sitting there waiting, and they bring somebody up on a stretcher, take me off and put him in, and that's the bad guy. Put the bad guy in my ambulance. I don't know, maybe he looked worse than me, I don't know. He was pretty banged up. Waiting there, they put Jim in an ambulance and then put me in the ambulance. And Jim and I head off to the hospital. So Jim and Andy went deep into the hospital because of their serious wounds. They took me into the sewing room to stitch up my head. Now, I named it the sewing room. They didn't, but that's my definition because the doc says, I said to the doc, how many stitches are there? He says, well, I don't know. There are too many to count. So I don't know, maybe I have a hard head or something. But I stitched up in the hospital, went home that night, and didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, pilots started showing up on our front porch, unannounced, of course. They want to hear the story. And I bet I told the 705 story a dozen times that week or more. Steady stream of pilots. You know, pilots want to hear the details, even the gory part. So I told the story, and it's unfortunate that Jim and Andy could not talk about the event so quickly after the incident because of their injuries and remaining in the hospital for so long. But the guys that came by were in, one fellow brought in a huge cooler with 2 cases of beer iced down, and he says, I just want to be sure you have enough. So I thanked him, and we did the right thing with that beer, I can tell you. So the trial happened 1 year later. As said on the video, he was convicted of attempted air piracy, was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility for parole. I guess the summary of this event is it changed our lives dramatically, but we have been part of an organization that's renowned for teamwork. Teamwork's been the foundation of FedEx from the very beginning. And we are certainly living proof of how teamwork actually worked. We saved each other's lives, and that's what we did. Thank you so much for being here today.
Wow. We are fortunate to be here tonight, fortunate to be in the presence of such greatness and bravery, and that's what to say. We'll give Mike Mr. Tucker's things, and he will see that he gets those because he's inducted here too. I don't know of anything else that can be said. So we'll end tonight's induction, and I'll end with this. And let me say before I finish, the auction will be open 15 minutes after we close, so you'll have a chance to bid on items that you want to bid on. And so please avail yourself of that. Have a safe trip home, and really mull over this event and the great things that people do. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter's silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up the long, delirious burning blue, I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace, where neither lark nor even eagle flew. And while, with silent lifting mind, I've trod the high and trespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. Have a nice trip home. If you want to take pictures, if people want to take pictures, they're going to be here to do that. And just come back and see us next year. Thank you so much for coming.